Well, what
That's
you
his
said,
main
he's
thing in glass.
living in purpose, is an interesting idea. It reminds me of the Bhagavad Gita, which I recently finished, which I highly recommend.
It's another
I
one.
almost bought it for you and sent it to you.
Oh
But then
yeah.
I realized
How long is it?
it's not that long. It's
Huh.
it's so good. Bhagavad Gita is so good. It is that so in the Bhagavad Gita, the premise of the story, it sounds really weird, but there are two sides about to go to war. One faction whose one of their chief officers or chief generals is, his name is Arjuna, is facing off against the other side, who is all sort of family, but corrupt in a way. The other side is trying to take the crown or the kingdom, and actually it's his birthright. So he's fighting for what is supposed to be his. Actually, he's the righteous one. He's the one who's doing the right thing, and they're fighting against him. So it's sort of family against family, very Civil War sort of sense. And the whole story is Arjuna travels out into the middle of the battlefield between the two armies to see his enemy, and he sees his cousins on the enemy side, his uncles, and one of his uncles is named Dhritarashtra, and then his charioteer, who's Krishna, who is an avatar of Krishna is an avatar of Vishnu, have this conversation. And all of the Bhagavad Gita is this conversation that they're having about whether or not Arjuna should fight against his own family. He feels he has a moment of doubt. He doubts himself. And he says, how can I kill my own family, And Krishna says, you have to. And he says, how can I? And so then it's this long dialogue about understanding yourself, living your purpose. First, you have to find your purpose. Then once you find your purpose, you have to live your purpose. It's basically a treatise on how to meditate, how to live a yogic lifestyle. Not yoga in the physical sense, but sort of the philosophy of yoga. And he just they walk through the philosophy of yoga and meditation, actually teaches them how to meditate. So they're in the middle of this battlefield before the battle starts, just talking about meditation. And one of the main sort of takeaways from that, and the reason I mention that, is that he says, Krishna says, if you know what your dharma is, but you decide to live separate from your dharma, your life will become chaos. But if you know what your dharma is and you live inside of your dharma, then everything will flow naturally with you, and it will be effortless. And so
that's David Lynch is all about that stuff.
Right.
You sound just like David Lynch.
So it's kind of it's all about meditation.
It's all coming full circle. This is how you get on that side of filmmakers.
Right. So I mean, it's all about, first of all, what is your dharma, and then how do you live within it? And once you live within it, then it's sort of like floating along with the river, not fighting against the current, not saying, I'm not this kind of person. And so, and then the question he asks is, these are my family. How can I kill them? And then there's this epic moment at the end of the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says, they're all already dead. I am time. I am death, because he is a manifestation of God, the creator God. They're all already dead. Killing them now is only, basically prematurely cutting short what's going to happen anyway. And then they have this long conversation, and it comes to a point where Arjuna asks Krishna to show him his true godly form, and Krishna does. And he gives him a third eye, and this third eye lights up on his head, and he's able to see Krishna's infinite form, and it blows his mind. He can't, because it's too horrible to see. It's not just light and flowers. There's that too, but at the end of it, it's these horrible jaws destroying people as they get old and die, and it's too horrible for him to behold. So then he begs him to take on his human form again. And then after he takes on his human form again, Krishna says, you're the only one who's ever seen that. And then Arjuna says, "Hey, if I've ever said anything that made you angry before, because we've been friends for a long time, I'm sorry." And, and then they part ways, and then he kills all of his family members in the war. So going to war and killing all of them is the genuine thing for him to do. So the solution is not to not fight your family. This is your dharma. Go kill them all. And that's what he does.
So you're saying if you're a scumbag, like a politician or something, it might just be your game, your bag.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be who you are.
Be who
if
you
you're
are.
a slime bag, well, yeah, that's an interesting concept. I don't know. I mean, that seems like that would have a limited amount of application, right? I mean,
well,
if you're a murderer or a rapist, you probably shouldn't go with your dharma, right?
Well, I don't know if that's quite the.
If you've got voices
point
in your
of it.
head, yeah, that's true. I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm.
Just as a.
Because I don't think anyone would say that there's no situation when war is not appropriate, right? So even now in our
There's
modern...
no situation when war is not appropriate.
Oh, sorry.
I like that.
There are situations in which
Sir,
war is
we're out of cheese at Subway. Calling my...
Wait a minute. You don't have my dry cleaning? You lost it?
Maybe that's your dharma.
Yeah.
You're the guy that there's no situation that war does not apply to.
They came out all wrong.
That's funny. I like that. No, but that's an interesting story. So you could relate that back to David Dunn in that he's a person just living his purpose. That was the achievement at the end of Unbreakable. Not that he's going to be Iron Man, a celebrity type. Not that there's anything wrong with being an Iron Man, but he just
thanks for that
has the
caveat,
ability to help
the
people.
Old Tony Stark caveat.
I'm putting in all kinds of caveats now.
No one's
Don't be a murderer. Marvel's okay.
I'm gonna post this in the I'm trying to think of a subreddit.
People
where
in
this could still
Philadelphia
be
aren't stupid. Marvel Machine X is okay.
I'll figure out something.
Right.
I'll figure out some way to.
I don't think I've said anything that wasn't offensive so far, but